on this, let's bring in Prince Malik Ado Ibrahim. He's CEO of Africa AI. Welcome to Money Talks, Prince. Now, we're seeing major growth across the global tech sector at this point. What single biggest hurdle, in your opinion, is holding back AI adoption in Africa?
From our standpoint, I think it's really the complementary element of government and the involvement of the private sector. African countries don't have the investment that's necessary from the governmental standpoint. And from our standpoint, we need to do what the companies like OpenAI and DeepSeek are doing, which is to invest in that infrastructure for government. They would rather spend $1 billion on the road than $1 billion on infrastructure. And we're there to make sure that we are the leading entity that will push Africa's AI ventures forward.
Right, and where are you seeing AI make the biggest real practical difference on the continent today? Is it in fintech, healthcare, agriculture?
It's a great question. I think it's in everywhere, but you're going to see the most revolution in agriculture and in healthcare, because that's where AI will definitely help countries like Nigeria with very large populations and the continent in general. With about 1.3 billion people, we need that ability to be able to use AI to get efficiencies going properly.
Right, and could AI help African economies leapfrog traditional development, creating new specialized jobs faster than it replaces old ones?
Well, the legacy opportunities there, we can leapfrog a lot of the legacy infrastructure and get to where first world technology is today, and AI will do that in an instant. What is clear to us is that we need to be very careful to keep the data that we earn and we glean from these economies and make sure that we utilize them so that these individual countries and Africa in general is able to maintain that data sovereignty as much as possible.
Right, and you mentioned governments. So how do African policymakers balance the need to innovate with the risk of that data sovereignty that you also mentioned, especially when competing with the US and China in this?
Well, this is where the big challenge is for a company like Africa, because we realize that all these incredible earnings we're hearing about are really focused on everywhere but Africa. And if you look at where we are as a continent with over 1 billion people, we have the ability to be as strong as any of these nations and these continents and these very large organizations that are leading the AI charge. What you see is people like Mr. Trump and Mr. Xi and even Macron pushing these AI firms into the fore and making sure that they lead in the advancement of artificial intelligence in their countries and in the continents in which they are located. And I think that for Africa, we are really trying to push governments to realize that, especially the Nigerian government, to realize that if we do not take that position with the same amount of zeal as they do with the Dangote refinery, if we look at that on the AI side of things, we are going to miss a great opportunity to catch up with the first world as quickly as possible.
Right, and tell us a bit about your company, Africa AI, how it's taking on this challenge in Africa.
Well, the most important part of what we've seen is that before we came on the scene, a lot of the AI ventures, whether it's cloud or infrastructure, was based on sort of taking your national sovereign data and putting it into the likes of a G42 or Amazon or any of the other companies that are there providing services. But that gives backdoors and entries and unfortunately the ability to be able to scale off Africa and really make us very vulnerable technology-wise, and sovereignty becomes an issue. Where we've become, at least where a lot of attention has been put onto us, is that we are building data centers and the whole infrastructure on the continent, for the continent, and making sure that the talents that we have, the infrastructure plays that we have, the modernity that we can use now with things like renewable energy, allow us to be able to be a player on the continent, and then also provide services for these governments and for much needed modernity on the African continent.
Right, and this expansion is also very costly. Let's talk a little bit about investment in this.
Well, since we've started pushing our sovereign databases and data centers and the ability to use cases that we've developed for the continent, we've seen a lot of investment from the Middle East knocking on our door, from the likes of European investment banks also looking at this. But we're trying our best to be careful not to make sure that that investment comes with any kind of payback of access to our data. Yes, you can come and play with us, but you can't take the toys away. And that's sort of the mindset that we have. But we're really concerned that the African economies, the likes of Africa Development Bank and AfriExim are not focusing on what that will be, that AI will be for the African continent, and we will miss an opportunity to be part of the first world if we don't get those kind of investments in.
Right, that's very interesting. Prince Malik Ado Ibrahim, CEO of Afric AI. Thank you very much for joining us here on Money Talks.
Thanks for having me.